Released by SEGA in 2013 on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC, Aliens Colonial Marines would be a canon installment in the Alien franchise. Written by Mike Newman alongside two writers Bradley Thompson and David Weddle of 2004 Battlestar Galactica fame, the game aimed to be a true sequel to Aliens. For story, the game takes place between Aliens and Alien 3, with the player assuming the role of USCM Corporal Winter, discovering events that occurred on the USS Sulaco and LV-426 after the events of the Aliens movie. For gameplay, it's a traditional corridor shooter, wherein the player combats various enemies comprised of familiar and new Weyland-Yutani mercenaries and xenomorphs, with familiar weapons from the movies and ones of original design. In addition, the game features weapon and character customization, 4-player co-op, and a few multiplayer modes. The game was originally announced in 2006 when SEGA purchased the electronic rights to the Alien franchise, with development to be handled by Gearbox of Brothers in Arms fame. Over time, due to misconduct by Gearbox secretly taking money and resources from Colonial Marines to fuel development of their new projects Borderlands and Duke Nukem Forever, progress on Aliens Colonial Marines slowed until it was discovered. This led to Colonial Marines getting cancelled and quickly finished by outsourced studios until it was released in 2013. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. The game begins after the events of the film Aliens, in which we see a distress call sent from an injured Corporal Hicks regarding the disaster on LV-426 and requesting assistance aboard the USS Sulaco. 17 weeks later, we now see a new battalion of Marines wake up from cryopods aboard the USS Sephora, in which Captain Cruz informs the crew that the previous battalion has encountered heavy resistance and they are now needed. The synthetic assigned to them, Bishop, checks on them as they gear up for battle, including Corporal Winter, who is briefed that they are to catch up to the previous unit who are trying to get to the Sulaco's flight recorder and figure out why the ship is back above LV-426 and when it was last seen above Fury 161. With little information, Winter is told to focus on gathering information over heroics. While boarding the Sulaco, an explosion portends the danger within and closes the door to safety behind him. Encountering a Private O'Neill still alive, the two descend down into the hangar where they find the remnants of a fresh attack over the aftermath of the final battle from Aliens. While freeing a captive Marine named Keyes, Winter survives a close encounter with a xenomorph, though Keyes refuses to obey the order to pull back until they get the flight recorder first, and succeeds in doing so amidst a mob of aliens. Winter, Keyes, and O'Neill survive pulling back to the Sephora. However, in the umbilical tunnel connecting the two, a fresh alien bursts out of the chest of Keyes, who quickly chooses to blow himself up in response, losing the flight recorder and stranding Winter and O'Neill back on the Sulaco. Now assigned to clear the cargo bay for receiving new Marines, they note the presence of Weyland-Yutani equipment here, and there are timestamp recordings after the date Hicks sent out the distress call, meaning that they are not alone on the ship. Clearing out the alarming infestation of xenomorphs within, fresh Marines now back up Winter, only to be under fire by hostile humans stowed away on the Sulaco. They hear from a Private Bella that these troops are Weyland-Yutani mercenaries and manage to locate and rescue her, though she had a previous encounter with a facehugger. The mercenaries fire heavy ordnance into the Sephora, forcing the crew to abandon ship into the Sulaco, while Winter, O'Neill, and Bella focus on securing the bridge and stopping the Sulaco from attacking. While they succeed in disabling the weapons, it's too late as Sephora goes critical and explodes, damaging the Sulaco, and the surviving Marines must now focus on evacuating the Sulaco too. Hurrying to a dropship, their transport is damaged in a dicey escape, and they tumble to the planet side LV-426 below. Surviving a crash landing, Winter wakes to find Bishop questioning Bella about the facehugger that got her, and informing her she will die in a few hours like Keyes had. Cruz directs them to the remains of Hadley's Hope Colony, somehow still standing after an atmospheric processor detonation, and seeks to establish an operations center to round up their scattered forces. Winter and O'Neill are assigned to establish the perimeter and plant motion sensors, though the local xenomorphs don't make it easy. Next, Bella and their pilot Reed have gone dark, so Winter and O'Neill must check in on them at the comms tower, encountering a strange new threat along the way and getting captured. Escaping before being implanted, Winter sees the unfortunate fate of a familiar game over, and sees a new boiler alien that is blind but attracted to sound as he quickly escapes the sewers unarmed. Reuniting with O'Neill, they make it back to the surface again, where they find Bella and Reed, but O'Neill is then captured. Encountering the stronger alien variant again, nicknamed Raven, bullets prove useless, and so they rely on a nearby power loader to bludgeon the monster to death. Rescuing O'Neill, the stress of the situation is starting to get to all of them as they continue back to operations. O'Neill and Bella then go to Cruz to request permission to enter the Weyland-Yutani facility nearby to try and extract the alien growing within Bella, and Cruz allows it only if they secure and send back a manifest of all personnel in the facility that should be there as well. Entering the facility, they find it full of mercenaries slaughtered by the xenomorphs and locate the manifest. Curiously, they discover a Marine captive by the enemy, but are forced to leave before they can discover who. Now focusing on saving Bella, they fight their way into the next facility and learn the captive Marine is supplying Weyland-Yutani with information and was taken from the Sulaco. Regardless, after dealing with Bella, they stick to their creed of never leaving a Marine behind and are instructed to evac the captive Marine. Bella reminds them that should this not work, to kill her quickly and focus on saving the captive. They find a doctor within the facility and order him at gunpoint to remove the alien within Bella, however he informs them it's impossible to simply remove the alien and save the host. Reason being, once it becomes an embryo, because it forms its own placenta by leaching fluid and nutrients from every organ in the host, even if it was removed, the organs in the host would die on their own anyway. They knock him out, and as Bella says goodbye to O'Neill and wants him to shoot her with her gun, a chestburster erupts out, killing her instantly, and O'Neill quickly kills it with her reserve bullet. Dealing with the grief, O'Neill focuses on the next rescue mission, in which the captive is now being loaded into an APC. Along the way, they see the scientists here breeding more xenomorphs for study across all stages of their life. They then shut down the power to the facility, which also shuts down all security measures as well, including containing a queen they were harvesting eggs from while studying. Later, they find more enemies attempting to leave with the eggs off planet as they enter the derelict alien spacecraft, still intact despite being thought destroyed. Finding the APC with the prisoner, they also find an FTL-capable ship with which they can escape the planet on, yet when Cruz hears of this, he's silent as if he already knew. Bringing the prisoner back to Cruz, Bishop, and Reed, the soldier is unmasked to be Corporal Hicks, held for information by Weyland-Yutani. Bishop asks him how he's alive since he sent the distress call 17 weeks ago and he was declared KIA 3 weeks later on Fury 161. He doesn't provide an explanation, and instead they are interrupted as more Marines are moving in while being pursued by an army of xenomorphs. Hicks and Reed are sent to head to the dropship, while Winter and the others make their stand in the facility's vehicle bay. After fending off a menacing new Crusher variant, they ask again how Hicks survived, and he explains that when near Fury 161, a group of Weyland-Yutani PMCs boarded the ship illegally, putting the ship on alert, and only he was awakened as the only Marine on board. The other cryopods ejected without him while he was captured, and while he waxes over the obvious question of whose body was in his found pod, they refocus on the mission at hand. Cruz orders an all-out assault with the remaining few dozen Marines left to take the facility and the last FTL ship they have left. Surviving past the escaped Queen, they are unfortunately too late arriving to the FTL ship as it lifts off, and so they take their dropship and crash into the hangar in order to board it. Unfortunately, the alien Queen has also somehow boarded the ship alongside them, so an injured Cruz sacrifices himself in order to launch himself and the Queen off the ship. Believing Michael Weyland to also be on the ship, they prepare to question him since they lost the Sulaco's flight recorder. However, Hicks shoots him, properly identifying him to merely be a synthetic double. Bishop then points out he can download everything this synthetic knows, and they begin the transfer. As the game ends, Hicks, Winter, Reed, and O'Neill reach space as Bishop confirms that they have everything. Aliens Colonial Marines has enjoyed the success of selling over 1.6 million copies worldwide. This recapitation was chosen by the patrons on Patreon. Thanks to everyone who voted in the April 1st poll, or simply supporting the show as a patron. I do look forward to more community votes. If you would like to support the show yourself, please follow the Patreon link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next battlefield.